The worst advice I ever got was from my boss at a feed store. Long story, I'd been tricked into thinking I was going to be working for a marketing firm that had a tourism business, but no, it was a feed store in Palmer, Alaska. And he said, if you don't work harder, you're never going to be a good secretary.
Wow, Tara, that's badass. So who the heck are you, and why should we listen to you?
I am Tara Rolstad, and I am a mental health expert, an advocate for people and their families who are struggling with mental health issues. And I talk about self-care and about parenting kids with mental illness. And you should listen to me because I've been there and done that.
There you go. I love that. So with that, that's interesting advice. If you work harder, you'll be a good secretary. Your boss said that. So did you like kick him in the nads, or what'd you do with that advice?
I did not because I needed the summer job during college. I just took it as deep motivation, deep
Hmm.
motivation, and thought, what? Not that there's anything wrong with being a good secretary, but sir, that's not what I'm here for.
So do you still think about that sometimes? Does it still get in your craw and motivate you to do more awesome stuff like you do?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm also motivated by the fact that I don't ever want to work in a place like that again that had a basement bathroom with a dirt floor.
Ooh, there you go. That's really good. I love that. I love that. And how big was your town that you lived in?
This was the town next to my town. My town was pretty small when I was growing up. It's a pretty normal sized suburb of any big city town now. But at the time, it was very small. No mall, no McDonald's, one stoplight.
Okay, so how big was this? Was the town next door? Was it even smaller or same size?
Equally
What?
small. Equally
Okay,
small.
gotcha, gotcha. Well, cool. Well, I'm so glad that you're here with me today. This is fun. We're going to talk about the balancing act of mastering self-care and parenting and pursuit of your happiness, which is really tough, I think. So, talk to me. What's the kid situation? You said you've been there, done that. Talk to me about your situation.
So 15 years ago, my husband and I had three little kids of our own, like 2, 5, and 7. And we were honored, able, tasked with bringing two of my nieces into our home as foster kids. Um, my brother had died many, many years earlier and left them in a very dangerous situation that we hadn't known about. And so they thankfully were rescued from that situation and came to us. But by the time they got to us, they had really severe mental health issues, extreme PTSD, and suicidality, depression, anxiety. So we spent the next several years helping them heal, helping them grow up, helping them figure out how to put their lives back together. And then, as life has it, one of our own kids, as she grew up, we discovered that she has major depressive disorder and anxiety and ADHD. So that sounds like a lot for one family, but what I've discovered is that it's a lot of families
Hmm.
because so many of us experience mental health issues. Not everybody at the same level of severity as my family has been blessed to experience, but pretty much every family.
Yeah. Wow. 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 And while we could talk about that, we will instead pivot to how do you take care of yourself? How do you make sure? Because it's one thing that to be not have mental health, mental issues, right? To not have those challenges, and PTSD and ADHD are no joke. They're serious things. But it's another thing to be that parent that's in that situation. And another one, you are a happy person, Tara. Tara, I got it wrong. I fricked it up. Sorry, Tara. And with that, I'm sure that it is not easy every day to be happy and to choose to be happy and to choose to find the sunshine. So first, let's talk about, what do you put first? Do you put you first, or you put the kids first, or is it a balancing act?
It is 100% a balancing act, but not a balancing act that I ever expect to get fully balanced.
Mm,
Uh, there are there are things that you have to identify, and that's for anybody in terms of self-care. There are things you have to identify for yourself, and they're different for everybody, that are non-negotiable. And so you have to figure out what that is for you. For some people, it's nutrition. For some people, it's time with the activities that they love. For me, it's sleep. That is my non-negotiable. And so I learned very early on that I had to get my 9 hours every night, which makes me sound like a real, I lose that game that we play in the society about, oh, I don't need any sleep. I can get by on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Well, first of all, no, you can't, because 1 to 2% of the population can get by with 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And the odds that you're in the 1 to 2%, I'm not a mathematician, but I feel like they're low. However, I'm at the other end of that spectrum for sure. And I had to decide, for me, that's where it was that was my non-negotiable, was sleep. But then there are times when you have to put your kids' needs first. If it's an emergency, if they're in a really serious situation, you're going to have to catch up with yourself later and know that that's okay.
Wow. So do we ever catch up?
I'll keep you posted.
Ah, there you go. So sleep is your thing. So what do you do to make sure you get sleep, Tara?
I do some countercultural things. I have accepted that my schedule is not like many people's schedule, and I don't do mornings. I don't do early mornings. In fact, um, for parents, oh, you got to get up early with your kids, and you have to make them breakfast every morning, and you have to be their alarm clock. And nope, my kids learned by middle school that they were going to be getting up and getting themselves ready for the day and getting out the door, and mom would probably still be asleep. And I say that out loud to you, hopefully in the hearing of other parents, to let you know that's okay. That's okay. My kids are great. You know what? I have kids who can get themselves up and out the door and who are responsible about using their alarm clocks. And that was one kind of flag in the ground that I had to plant. And it's kept me healthy. It's kept me feeling like I can move forward. For other people, it's going to be exercise. It's going to be making time to read that book that's really important to you, or finding that hobby activity that absolutely keeps you in a flow state so that you lose track of time and you're refreshing your mind and your spirit while you do it. It's different for everybody.
Mm. Wow. So you let the kids do their own thing, and do you find, I mean, is that still the case? Do you find that they're maybe more self-sufficient, or what are you finding out?
Yeah, absolutely. They are more self-sufficient. I have mom friends that I tease a little bit because they were their kids' alarm clock all the way through high school, and their 17-year-old would wake up to a fully cooked breakfast prepared by mama after mama woke them up because she didn't want them to hear the harsh tones of an alarm clock. Um, my kids woke up to their own alarm clock, and they either made themselves a bowl of cereal or they figured out something else. But yeah, they're pretty self-sufficient kids, and because of everything our family has gone through, they're also really compassionate kids because
Mm.
they've had to learn along with my husband and I, how do you walk alongside somebody who is in a crisis or who's really struggling with mental health. And there's trade-offs. They lost some time with me when they were little because I was taking care of their cousins. And my hope is that time trade-off resulted in kids who are more compassionate and who will be able to do this for the people in their life.
Mm. Wow. Wow, that's so interesting. So with that, you said you're countercultural. It can't just be that, though. Are you willing to share some more of the routines or things that you do to make sure that you get your sleep and make sure that you're taking care of yourself?
That really was the biggest one, and that's the one I like to talk about the most because when moms who are earlier in their parenting career, particularly moms, um, let's face it, it's still primarily viewed as mom's job to get this kind of stuff done in the morning most of the time. Uh, that's the most shocking thing that I do. I don't think the rest of it is all that countercultural. Um, I have been very intentional about keeping a support group around me. And I don't mean a formal support group where we go and sit in a room once a week. I mean, I'm very intentional about maintaining close friendships, about knowing who the people are in my life that I can call when things are hard. I'm in a small group of women that's met every week for years and years and years. And that has been also absolutely foundational to my own mental health, to my ability to take care of my kids and not lose it when I think that's the last straw. And oh no, here comes a whole pile of more straws, right?
Yeah, for sure. So surrounding yourself with a support group of supportive people, are these other people that also have that are parenting children of trauma and PTSD and ADHD, or are they I'm going to use air quotes normal parents?
So here's the funny thing. This particular small group of women, I don't think is anything different or special demographically than any other group of women. And yet we've all wound up with at least one kid who lives with anxiety or who has ADHD or who struggles with depression. All of our kids are older. They're all teenagers and college students. So that wasn't true when they were little, right? That wasn't true when they were tiny. But at this point, in my experience, it's almost every family that you meet is going to have a kid who struggles with something. Now, it's probably not going to be something at the severity level that my family has dealt with, but that's okay. They can still be there for me when things are hard. I can still be there for them when their kid is struggling. Um, I think I think the important part of that is knowing that you can be there for somebody else even if you don't know what to say. Even if you've not been through that experience, even if it's kind of scary and it's about mental health or it's about um, maybe a kid with a substance abuse issue, you can still be a good friend to them just by listening and letting them know you're not going anywhere. So those women have done that for me. I try to do that for other people that I encounter, other people in my life.
Yeah. Well, so you named some things there that I don't think most people think of as it relates to challenges there. A child with anxiety, a child with depression, a child who's suicidal, ADHD, PTSD. Those are all things that when you said them was like, oh yeah, I've got that. I've got a kid that has some ADHD, that suffers from some anxiety there, that likely has some depression. Okay, then so you've done the work here. What percentage of families have you found have some challenges?
1 in 5 kids every year is going to struggle with a mental health issue. It's going to be 1 in 4 of all of us over our lifetime. That was before the pandemic. The numbers are much higher now. Um, 2/3 of teenage girls right now are persistently sad or hopeless. 50% of suicide attempts for teenage girls went up by 50% in 2021. I mean, the numbers are not great. They're really not great. Um, and so that's why I think it's important that parents are aware of this and that they're talking to their kids about it. They're acting like it's a normal part of the human experience because it is. Um, yeah, a lot of people live with anxiety. A lot of people are going to struggle with depression. That's okay. We know how to get help for that. You can get better. You don't have to feel this way. We've got this, and we've got you. That's the message that parents, I really want them to hear, is having those conversations with their kids early on. Early on, start talking about your feelings and your emotions and your brains, all of those things.
Wow. So, okay, 2/3 of teenage girls sad or hopeless. That is staggering and
Yeah.
sobering to hear. Um, and yet, as parents, we have our own shit. Let's be clear here. Like we've got our own shit to deal with. And so I, I want to pivot back into talking about that, about some other things that you found are helpful for parents. And then we'll share resources. I'll share plenty of resources in the show notes here. But so give me some other things. I mean, sleep is big. I try my best to get a lot of sleep, and I love that you brought that up. What else can we do? What else? And I know everybody's going to be unique here. I'd hope that you would give me some specifics though that may work for somebody, that they at least know what to try here.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I talk about self-care, I've got a framework, and the framework is split into three big sections. The first one
Ooh.
is the boring four. You could probably figure those out by yourself. And sleep lands in the boring four. And I wish that it was more interesting and innovative than that. But the boring four is sleep, nutrition, exercise, and either nature or community. So all of us, every human being on the planet, is wired to require exposure to nature. We don't think about that. We don't think about the fact that our brains and our spirits are wired to require that. And so making sure that you go outside and look at a tree, that can make a huge difference, honestly. I mean, just making sure that you are absorbing some nature sounds, some trees and some grass, and sticking your hands and touching a flower that is beautiful. That kind of stuff is hugely important to our physical and mental health. There was a study that was done that showed that listening to a brief clip of bird sounds reduces symptoms of depression and anxiety. And actual bird sounds are even better. But just listening to bird song, I mean, that tells you like our brains respond to that. So, diet, diet and nutrition, exercise, sleep, community, and nature, right? Those are hugely important. Another section is getting in the flow. I mentioned that earlier. So, flow state is something we've all experienced at one time or another. It's something that you love doing. It's something you're doing it and you lose track of time. You're so absorbed in it. That is very, very unique, because for some people, that's going to be running. I don't do that unless there's a bear involved. And even then, I'm probably going to just give up, right? Like, that's not my thing. Um, for some people, it's knitting. For other people, it's my husband plays super nerdy board games that involve little miniatures that he puts together and paints. You know, it's different for everybody, but finding that thing that puts your brain into that flow state, super powerful stuff.
Wow. Wow. So
Yeah.
you're boring for getting in the flow, but you said you had a third one. What's the third one, Tara?
That one is trying something new. And that can incorporate learning a new skill. It can be learning new breathing exercises. I am such a nerd when it comes to breath work and breathing exercises and how it affects our brain, because the way we breathe literally changes our brain chemistry. What? The way we breathe changes the chemicals our brain secretes just by breathing. And yet, so often we forget to breathe well. Like, I will absolutely find myself with my shoulders up to here and my chest super tight, and I'm taking these super shallow breaths. Hey, I don't feel good when that happens. That doesn't feel good. So, there's so many exercises you can do for breathing. Like, will you do one right now? Will
Yeah,
you do
let's
it?
go. Let's do. I was just going
Okay.
to ask you. Let's do one.
So short, so short. Put the tip of your tongue and the front of the roof of your mouth, and then just let the rest of your mouth kind of relax. And then take 2 deep breaths. Did you notice anything change in your body?
Yeah, I feel a little lighter. I feel a little more opened up. That's pretty good.
Shoulders
Yep.
probably dropped.
Yep.
That that exercise, and really any breathing exercise, will take your brain out of fight, flight, freeze, which is our sympathetic nervous system. It'll take your brain out of that, and it tells your brain, we're okay. There's no tiger. There's no bear. We're okay. And it moves you into your parasympathetic nervous system. Breath work. Super cool.
Wow. That's so interesting. So I listened to a study last week that Andrew Huberman shared, that he talked about doing hard things, which are typically new things, because they're things that we're not great at, right? That fixes a different part of our brain, helps us live longer, de-stresses us, and keeps our brain sharp, which is super, super important. So I love that. Breath work. That's the ice tub, jumping in a tub of ice.
Yes.
Crazy to me, but people do that. So we've got these beautiful 3 things here: boring 4, getting in the flow, trying something new. Super
Learn
awesome.
to play the ukulele. Go climb a mountain. Make something new in the kitchen.
Something. Now, you have a resource for this, right? That we'll have?
Yeah. I've got a handout that covers a lot of this stuff that gives you a ton of ideas.
Awesome. So we'll make sure we include that. That's really good. Give us a couple more ideas here as we kind of wrap up here.
Well, I would think really hard about forcing yourself to make time for the things that are fun too, right? Like, on the one hand, I hate it when people talk about a bubble bath and a glass of wine. I hate that because it minimizes what we need to do for ourselves, because this is so important. On the other hand, occasionally, Netflix and Cheetos is powerful self-care. So if for you, it's watching an entire season of The Bear, okay, not The Bear, because that really stresses me out, even though it's really good. Watching the entire season of something that's fun and doesn't stress
Ted
you
Lasso.
out. Ted Lasso. Yes. That's an excellent one. Make time for those things. Make time to have fun with your family, especially if you're a family that's struggling with some hard stuff, which again is most families at some point in time. Make sure that you're also having fun with each other and just being silly and ridiculous, doing whatever it is that makes your family laugh, whatever that is. Those are the kinds of things that we need to claim for ourselves. And the very most important thing is that people need to believe that they deserve this. It's important to do self-care because it makes you better at your job. It's important to practice good self-care because it makes you a better parent, it makes you a better partner. But it's important to practice good self-care because you deserve to live a life that's more meaningful, that's healthier, that's happier. You deserve that just for being you. That's probably step number 1. I probably should have started there.
Wow. That is powerful stuff. So before we let you go here, I'm going to have one more question, but I'm going to put up your website here, tararolstad.com, TARAROLSTAD.com. Lots of great resources there. Tara's full of great information and is super duper helpful. So much you can do. We'll make sure that you get the resource, the handout. We'll make sure we get other stuff, but believing that you deserve this is often a tough one. So give us some encouragement that we can do that, even if we don't know that we can.
If you have to start by doing it for somebody else, that's okay. If you have to start taking care of yourself so that you can be a better parent for your kids, I'm going to allow that, because as you get going and you start taking care of yourself and you start feeling better, you will start to see, oh, I need this and I deserve this because it's making me better for myself. I would be remiss as a mental health advocate if I didn't say that sometimes self-care isn't enough. And if you have lost the energy to engage with life, if you are still functioning, but you're not getting any enjoyment out of the things that you're doing, if you have felt like that for more than a couple of weeks, you should probably check into getting some help from a professional. You don't even have to have anything wrong with you to see a therapist and talk to somebody. And oh my goodness, when it comes to parenting kids who are struggling with mental health, I feel like that should be a prescription for the parents anyhow. I don't know why they don't do that. But seeing a therapist is not something I did until about a year ago. And I should have done it much, much earlier. It's been tremendously helpful and powerful for me. And um, sometimes self care isn't enough. And sometimes we need help from somebody else. Sometimes we might need help from chemicals that are provided by pharmaceutical products. And that is all okay because this is all a normal part of the human experience.
Wow. So, friends, if you're listening here, you're normal, just like all of us. So, get some help if you need it. Listen to Tara, do some self care, and be willing to raise both hands and say, I can't do this by myself. Find some
Yeah.
community, find a therapist. Better living through chemicals is not a joke, it is a good thing. I take 2
Right.
pills every day to help my brain be a little bit better. And if I can take 2 pills, you can get some help too. So, Tara,
Because
thank you so
people need,
much.
they can feel better. They can
Yeah.
feel better.
And you deserve to feel better, which is the beautiful thing that you shared. Tara, thanks so much. You're the best. I really appreciate this
Thank
conversation.
you. I love
Thank
talking about this and I love talking about it with you, Phil. Thank you.
thank you.